Get ready, Padres fans. It's time for the EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show on the Padres Radio Network.
Tatis hit third, 2 outs. Fernando takes off. He's going to steal home without a play.
Coming up, we'll have a recap of the previous Padres game, a preview of today's starting pitching matchup, and our keys to the game. Plus, we'll hear from manager Mike Shildt. From the Padres Radio Network, here's Sam Levitt.
San Diego Padres baseball coming up on 97.3 The Fan and the Padres Radio Network. Today the Padres take on the Washington Nationals in the final game of a 3-game series. Our starting pitching matchup today for the Nationals, left-hander DJ Herz, and for the Padres, right-hander Dylan Cease. Hi again everyone, Sam Levitt with you inside the loft here at the Western Metal Building on an absolutely gorgeous Wednesday afternoon here at Petco Park. First pitch coming up at 1:10 as the Padres try to make this a 6-1 homestand at Petco Park. Coming up in the next 50 minutes, you'll hear from Padres manager Mike Shildt. You'll also hear from today's starting pitcher Dylan Cease, and I go one-on-one with Donovan Solano as well. But first, let's set the table, brought to you by Fraser Farms Market. Set your table with the highest quality of natural and organic products from Fraser Farms Market, a San Diego original since 1971 with 3 locations, La Mesa Vista and Oceanside. Padres enter with a record of 43-41. Padres have won 6 of 7, and like I said, the Padres going for a great 6-1 homestand here today. Meanwhile, the Nats are 38-41. They've lost 2 in a row in this series. Padres entered today holding the 3rd and final wild card spot in the National League. They now have a 1.5 lead over Arizona and the New York Mets, 2.5 games up on the Pirates and the Nationals. It was another wild game at Petco Park last night. Let's relive it.
How did the Padres fare in their last game? Let's take a look back with our Padres Rewind. Presented by Hamul Casino. With thrilling slots and tables and all the best rewards, Hamul Casino has all the fun you're looking for. Hamul Casino. Fun above all else.
In the bottom half of the first inning, the Nationals wanted to talk to Jurickson Profar. They hit Jurickson Profar. The bench is emptied. Mike Shildt got ejected. And then Manny Machado had a loud answer.
Here's Machado. And he swings at the first pitch, hits it a mile to deep left field. What an answer from Manny. Maybe the longest homer I've ever seen to left at Petco Park. 2-0 San Diego in the bottom of the first inning, and Profar raises his hands as he rounds third base. Machado taking the slowest trot you'll ever see him take. Only about halfway to third base, and this place is electric.
Padres led 2-0 until the top of the third. Nationals scored 4 runs against Adam Mazur to take a 4-2 lead. Padres then had a good opportunity in the bottom half of the 5th inning. Luis Arraez hit a 1-out triple. Manny Machado walked with 2 men away to put runners on first and third. Jake Cronenworth was next.
4-3. Cronenworth then. Machado at first, Arraez at third. Here is the 2-2 to Cronenworth. Swung on, lined into left field. That is down and a base hit. Arraez in to score. Machado going to try and get to third. Winker's throw is coming, and it gets through. Nice job by Gore backing it up. Kind of fell down to his stomach and reached out to stop the baseball from rolling away. If he doesn't get to it, Manny's on his way home. But it's a 1-run game now, 4-3. Cronenworth ends up at second base, and the Padres have 2 guys in scoring position for Donovan Solano.
The tying run was at third. The go-ahead run on second for Solano. Here's what he did.
Gore comes set and ready. Here's the 0-2 pitch. Solano hits it hard on the ground the other way. Diving attempt. Garcia trickles off his glove. Machado has scored. Cronenworth's on his way. A 2-run single. And the Padres are back in front. It's 5-4.
Fast forward to the bottom of the 6th inning. The bases were loaded. Jurickson Profar had the last laugh.
Padres with a 1-run lead. They are looking for more, much more, with Jurickson Profar at the plate. Here's the 2-0 pitch. Profar hits it in the air, deep down the right field line, towards the corner. Gonna go!
The ultimate answer.
Nationals would make it interesting. A couple of runs late in the 7th to make it 9-6. Another run in the 9th inning against Robert Suarez to make it 9-7. But that was it. Final score last night, Padres 9, Nationals 7. I asked Manny Machado about Profar's grand slam after the game.
I mean, it was awesome, man. I mean, it's just how the baseball gods see it, you know. I mean, the baseball gods are great. That's why they're up there. You got to stay humble, handle situations right, and they pay you. They pay you right. And look what happened, you know. Tough game. How to start off. He kept his cool. He did everything, you know, and then went out there, you know, hits a grand slam in the same day. I mean, it doesn't get better than that. I don't even think he could write it up any better.
Certainly quite the game last night. So many storylines, so many dramatic swings, and the Padres now going for a 3-game sweep of the Nationals. Let's go inside the Padres radio booth and check in with Tony Gwynn Jr.
Let's go inside the Padres broadcast booth for a deep dive on today's matchup from Tony Gwynn Jr. in our Padres game preview on the Padres Radio Network.
Tony, let's start with a look back at last night. What a ball game. What moments for Manny in the first inning, the Profar grand slam, all of it. Now that we've had a night to sit with it, we wake up on this Wednesday morning into early afternoon. Just overall, Tony, your thoughts about last night's game and everything we saw here at Petco Park?
I mean, it was an exciting game. It was a lot of action, a little more action than I like for a radio broadcast. You know, there was a lot going on. My head felt like it was spinning at one point because I couldn't keep up with my scorecard, what was going on. So, you know, from a selfish standpoint, I like it to be a little calmer. But, I mean, if you had a chance, you bought a ticket, or you were watching it on TV, how could you not be entertained by that ball game last night? It was a terrific baseball. And you know what? I thought the night before might have been one of the more exciting games of the year. That one topped it in the third inning.
Well, just Jurickson Profar alone, I said after the game on Monday night, after the walk-off hit, that Profar had his signature moment of the season to that point. Little did I know that 24 hours later he would maybe even top it with everything that happened last night. Let's talk a little bit about Jurickson Profar, Tony. I just want to talk about this guy and his mindset because Pro, you know, is a pretty cool customer. He's smiley, but there have been some instances this season, whether it was the incident with Will Smith when he, you know, called him irrelevant, or it was, walking Luis Ariz a couple of nights ago in front of him to load the bases. That led to Profar winning the game. It does seem like Jurickson finds these moments to maybe use it as a little bit of extra motivation. And Tony, that's something that, you know, a lot of great athletes over the years, no matter the sport, they find ways to find that edge. And it does seem like Jurickson has a little bit of that too.
I mean, Jurickson always played that way. I mean, it's a different guy outside of the white lines as it is in between the white lines. And he's got a little edge to him. And I think you got to love it, right? You got to respect it. And it just so happens that in 2024 here, he's been able to match that kind of edge with his performance on the field.
Right.
And it has so happened that he's been poked a couple times, and the game has presented him with an opportunity to speak in a way that only a bat can do. And he's come through in every situation. And so as an athlete, you know, you enjoy those moments thoroughly because they don't always go your way. But it seems like all of them have gone his.
And it's a great point, Tony, whether it was Will Smith, whether it was Keibert Ruiz. Jurickson has not done any of the talking. He's talked with his bat. So it's a fantastic point. He continues to make the statement with his play on the field. Let's talk a little bit more about today's game. Right-hander Dylan Cease on the mound for the Padres today. Last start, 4 2/3 innings against Milwaukee. 4 earned runs given up. 6 hits, didn't give up a home run. Still a little bit rocky for Dylan. What are you hoping to see from Dylan Cease here today in this series finale?
It does feel like Dylan is due for one of those dominant performances. He's really been off since the performance he had back in Chicago. It's kind of been up and down. It does feel like he's due for that. And, you know, I think for Dylan, he's not off by much, right? I think his command has gotten better over time. I mean, since that kind of rut he's been in. But he's still missing, and it just seems like when he does miss, the other team isn't missing, right? And they're capitalizing on all. And it doesn't work that way all the time. Sometimes pitcher misses his spot, guy will foul it off. You never know the difference because the next pitch he makes his pitch. That just hasn't been going Dylan's way, and you just kind of get the feel that at some point, you feel like it could be today that he's going to have one of those really dominant performances where he's dialed in.
You certainly hope so. We'll see how Dylan does today against this Nationals lineup. A rookie left-hander, DJ Hers, on the mound for the Nationals here today. Tony, as always, appreciate the time. We'll talk to you and Jesse coming up at the top of the hour at 1 p.m. Thanks so much as always.
All right, Sam, take care.
All right, that is Tony Gwynn Jr. joining us on our EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show here on the Padres Radio Network. Again, first pitch coming up at 1:10 here in downtown San Diego on what is an absolutely gorgeous Wednesday afternoon. I'm looking up at the sky right now. Some clouds up there, but mostly bright blue skies. A little warm out today, as it's been throughout the last handful of days here in San Diego, but should be a lot of fun. Like we've said a few times, the Padres have already won the 2 series on this homestand. They took 3 out of 4 from Arizona. They've won the first 2 games of this 3-game series against the Nationals. They have an opportunity to make this a terrific homestand. 6-1. Excuse me, not Arizona. Milwaukee, they took 3 out of 4 from. They played Arizona here not all that long ago. Milwaukee. It is late June. We are getting into the long days of summer. Excuse me. Milwaukee 3 out of 4, and then the Nationals. They've won the first 2 games of this series. So we'll see if the Padres can really put a stamp on this homestand, make it 6-1. They'll try to do that here today with Dylan Cease on the mound. When we come back, we'll hear from Padres manager Mike Shildt. We hear all about last night's incident in the first inning. The bench is emptying, the warning to both dugouts, and then Profar getting hit by the pitch, and Mackenzie Gore not getting thrown out, Manny Machado hitting the home run. We will revisit everything that happened last night from Mike Shildt when we come back. Plus, a little bit later, we hear from today's starting pitcher, Dylan Cease, and I go one-on-one with Donovan Solano. First pitch coming up at 1:10 on the Padres Radio Network. Padres baseball coming up on 97.3 The Fan and the Padres Radio Network. Welcome back into the EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show on the Padres Radio Network. Your water perfected. EcoWater SoCal. Your water should be perfect. Find them online at EcoWaterSoCal.com. Sam Levitt with you inside the Western Metal Building here at Petco Park as we get ready for first pitch coming up at 1:10. Padres going for a 3-game sweep of the Washington Nationals. Well, last night's game here in downtown San Diego, it had a little bit of everything. A wild first inning with the benches emptying, with Keibert Ruiz deciding to have a conversation with Jurickson Profar getting hit. The warnings, Mackenzie Gore hitting Profar, Gore not ejected, Manny Machado hitting the 2-run home run. Padres lost the lead, they got the lead back, and then Jurickson Profar had the final say with a grand slam in the 6th inning. Let's hear some of what Mike Shildt had to say about all of that after last night's win.
Let's pull up a seat in the manager's office and hear from Padres manager Mike Shildt. Presented by Sinley Food. Spice up your culinary life.
To get into some details of whatever you're comfortable sharing with regards to what was the exchange between Jurickson and Ruiz, and also your thoughts, obviously, on not any ejection being called after they threw out the warnings out there. I mean, there were a lot of things going on right there. What can you
Yeah, a lot to unpack. I mean, gosh, I didn't really see it coming. I did hear that there were some grumblings, and again, people can have their own opinion about, the end of last night's game. I looked at it, and people have the right to have their own interpretation of it, clearly. The facts that I look at, and I try to stick to those, are, we had a situation last night where we had a real competitive player get told, I'd rather pitch to you than the other guy. So that got a really, big competitor's dander up a little bit, probably. Within the at-bat, completely unintentional. I am convicted of that. But nonetheless, you get 98 towards your head, and you've got to leave your feet, and you're put on your back in a big moment. Nobody's going to appreciate and accept that and feel good about that, nor should they. Intentional or unintentional, which, again, I felt was completely unintentional. And then the third big moment, you do your job very well, and you have a big moment for your team to help you win a game, and 3 big things in a row creates a lot of excitement and stimulation. That's the game. That's why when looking at it, I saw an exuberant guy celebrating. Again, take exception with it. That's fine. I had a couple people asking before the game, you think there's any issue? Or I personally didn't. Maybe I didn't have, my radar up to that degree. And then, we had a confrontation at the plate immediately. And so clearly it handled the way it was handled. And, rightfully warnings were given. And then the next, it's a real head scratcher, is, again, I think completely unintentional. Mackenzie hits Pro at 98. And I'm the one that gets ejected across the field. And so, it's a tough situation for everybody involved. That's why ultimately it really gets down to just playing baseball and cooler heads prevailing and, baseball taking place on the field. But at that point, and again, I don't think Mackenzie meant to do that at all. I think there's zero. I do think there was zero intent. And now the defense of the umpiring crew will be like, it's their judgment whether it's intentional or not. Wasn't. Right after it happened to the same guy it happened to at 98, we got to make a better decision than that. And so I'll leave it at that.
What was the way you watched Profar hit the grand slam? Can you just take us through what you were thinking, where you were watching, assuming in your office?
I was actually with TJ Lucida, our traveling secretary. I watched it with him, and we had some good conversation, enjoying the game. But I didn't get a chance to see Manny's because I just heard it before I could actually get to see it. So that was obviously really, really cool. And that's, but that's how we compete, and Pro got his opportunity to answer on the field, and I actually pulled him aside after it all happened and just said, talk me through it. What did he say? And he said, I just want to play baseball. I just want to go play baseball and show up and compete. And that's what this team's really going to do, and that's what we're going to continue to do. So, when he hit it, clearly it was a big moment for the game and for him. And really excited the way he handled himself.
That was Padres manager Mike Shildt after last night's game. We'll hear more from Mike on our post-game coverage coming up later on this afternoon. First pitch coming up at 1:10 here at Petco Park. Let's tell you who's hot, who's not.
Which player is locked in at the dish? Who needs to kick things up another notch? This is Who's Hot, Who's Not on the Padres Radio Network.
We begin with a long look at the hot category, a few guys to talk about here. Let's begin with the man of the hour, Jurickson Profar, who is in the midst of a 17-game on-base streak, a 9-game hitting streak in that on-base streak right now. 4 doubles, 3 home runs, 16 RBIs in that span. I just want to go through Jurickson's Major League and National League rankings entering today because it is simply remarkable. Jurickson enters today. 317 batting average, second in the majors, first in the NL. 410 on base percentage, third in the majors, first in the NL. 54 RBIs, tied for 10th in the majors, ranked 7th in the NL. With the bases loaded, Jurickson is 5 for 5 this year with 2 grand slams, 2 doubles, and 17 RBIs in 5 at-bats with the bases loaded. He's batting .367 with runners in scoring position. And oh yeah, in late and close, quote-unquote, situations, Profar is batting .519. That is first in the major leagues. He has been unbelievable. In the hot category with him, C.J. Abrams, 6 for 8 in this series for the Nationals. His last 16 games batting .409 with 3 home runs, 9 doubles, 1 triple, and 14 RBIs. Jake Cronenworth also batting .440 in the last 6 games. Cronenworth had a big double in last night's game. That's a look at the hot category. As far as the not category, we take a look at one National back in the lineup today for Washington, and that is their second baseman, Luis Garcia Jr., batting 5th here today. Garcia just 4 for his last 21, and that is a look at who's hot, who's not, as we get ready for the final game of this 3-game series. When we come back on our EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show, we'll hear from both Donovan Solano and today's starting pitcher, Dylan Cease. Plus, we have our keys to the game, full look at the out-of-town scoreboard, and much, much more to do. First pitch coming up at 1:10 as the Padres go for a sweep of the Nats on the Padres Radio Network. Our EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show continues here on the Padres Radio Network. Sam Levitt with you inside the loft here at the Western Metal Building at Petco Park on a gorgeous Wednesday afternoon. Here in America's finest city, Padres going for a 3-game sweep today of the Washington Nationals. Right-hander Dylan Cease on the mound for San Diego. We'll hear from Cease coming up in our next segment. And a little bit later in this segment, I go one-on-one with today's first baseman, Donovan Solano. First, let's update you on the injuries for the Padres, and there are a lot of them entering today's game.
Who's in? Who's out? This is the Bada Fulkerson Injury Report, presented by San Diego's Bulldog Injury Attorneys, who hope you're never in an accident. But if you are, make Bada Fulkerson the first call you make. Hit them up 24/7 at badafulkerson.com.
Let's begin with an update from today, because everything else obviously is major as far as the injury news for the Padres lately, but nothing new as of today. Really 2 updates for you today. Xander Bogaerts, he actually took batting practice on the field earlier today. I watched him. He was using a 2-handed finish, and Bogaerts, who is working his way back from that fractured bone in his left shoulder, he did take swings in batting practice. Looked pretty normal out there on the field earlier today. Obviously, it's going to be a ways away until Bogaerts returns, but certainly a good sign there, you would think, with Xander Bogaerts taking BP earlier today. Also, Joe Musgrove was out there today making progress with his throwing program, throwing a baseball, and we know Joe started that over the last handful of days. So 2 good pieces of news there. Musgrove and Bogaerts continuing their baseball activities. Beyond that, you probably know about most of this. Of course, Yu Darvish, he was pushed back from returning from the IL yesterday. Originally, that was the plan, but then he ended up dealing with a little bit of right elbow inflammation. We don't have an update on Yu beyond that. Fernando Tatis Jr., of course, going to be on the IL for quite a bit here, as we know, with that right femoral stress reaction that we found out about earlier this homestand, and Luis Campusano, the left thumb soreness on the IL, and those are the major injuries for the Padres right now, as they continue to be banged up, but hey, they continue to find ways to win ball games. But again, here today, the 2 real updates for you. Joe continuing his throwing program, and Bogaerts taking some BP, so 2 good pieces of news there. And that's a look at our injury report on this Wednesday. Let's take a full look at the out-of-town scoreboard.
Let's take a trip around the Bigs and tell you about the scores you need to know in our out-of-town scoreboard. Presented by Jensen Meat, where great taste meets integrity.
We begin with a game going on in Milwaukee right now. Brewers and the Rangers tied at 5 in the 6th inning. Jackson Chourio just hit an inside-the-park home run to tie the game at 5 for the Brew Crew, so they're tied at 5-5 in Milwaukee. Marlins ahead of the Royals 1-0 in Kansas City, 7th inning there. Astros 2, Rockies 0, 7th inning in Houston. Game 1 of a doubleheader today between the Braves and the Cardinals. Braves 4, Cardinals 1 in the 4th. Phillies ahead of the Tigers 6-2 in Detroit, 9th inning there. Everything else is coming up a little bit later. We do have a couple of finals, though. Mariners beat the Rays 5-2 in Tampa Bay earlier. Cal Raleigh, a 3-run home run for Seattle in that one. Pirates beat the Reds in Cincinnati 6-1. The game's yet to begin today. We have the Mets taking on the Yankees at Citi Field at 4:10. Luis Gil on the mound for the Yankees. Sean Manaea on the mound for the Mets in that one. A's and the Angels in Anaheim at 1:07. The Guardians and the Orioles in Baltimore at 3:35. Blue Jays and the Red Sox at Fenway Park at 4:10. Braves and the Cardinals, game 2 of that doubleheader coming up later as well. Dodgers and the White Sox in Chicago at 5:10. Twins in Arizona against the D-backs at 6:40. Cubs and the Giants in San Francisco at 6:45. And that is a full look at the out-of-town scoreboard on this Wednesday. Well, Donovan Solano continues to put together really quality at-bats for the San Diego Padres. He had a big go-ahead 2-run single in the 5th inning last night. And I'll tell you more about Solano's 2-strike numbers after we hear from him. But he just puts together such quality at-bats, and especially when he's got 2 strikes on him, his ability to put the bat on the baseball, make quality contact, it has been mighty impressive. I quickly caught up with Donovan in the clubhouse before today's game. Donovan, with 2 strikes, you've been really, really good this season, and the quality of your at-bats continues to be terrific. With 2 strikes in particular, what's worked so well for you?
I'm working on my decision. Like, I need to deselect my pitch. I don't try to do too much, especially with 2 strikes, and try to put a ball in play, see the ball, hit the ball, try to be simple all the time, and God help me for have these results.
Donovan, obviously this team's dealing with a number of injuries right now, but you're continuing to find different ways to win, and a couple of back and forth games like the last 2. You've been around a lot of teams that have, I'm sure, dealt with injuries. What stands out to you about the way this group is dealing with what's going on right now, injury-wise?
I mean, it's baseball. And that happened in Minnesota last year with me, and it's every team deal with sometime. Any season we deal with the injuries like that, especially with the big names like Machado, Tatis. Profile had a little bit with his knee, so Bogart, But at the same time, the most important, we had to the guys we replace him had to can come here to perform, can hold here for help the team, and I think that's how like San Diego right now they do it. Like all the players that come like replace the guy, they perform well and help the team win.
Donovan, appreciate the time. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much.
That was Donovan Solano earlier today inside the Padres clubhouse, and no doubt Solano has been one of those guys who is playing more than what we probably anticipated when he first joined the team, but he has really contributed. We heard there from Donovan about his 2-strike approach. Solano had a couple of singles last night. Both came with 2 strikes on him. His .311 batting average with 2 strikes is the second highest in the major leagues among batters with more than 15 at-bats in that situation. Hat tip to Kevin Acee, who put that in his newsletter this morning in the San Diego Union Tribune. But Solano continues to come up with big-time hits, and Donovan back in the lineup here today, playing first base and batting second. By the way, Luis Arraez not in the lineup for the Padres here today. He'll get a day off, and I would imagine, we'll see if he's off the bench today at all, but I'd imagine pretty good chance he'd be back in the lineup Friday at Fenway Park against the Red Sox, but Arraez is getting a day off here today. Solano batting second, and the leadoff man today, Jurickson Profar. Not a bad guy right now to have in that leadoff spot. Again, we'll hear from today's starting pitcher, Dylan Cease, coming up in just a little bit, but first let's give you our keys to today's game.
How will the Padres unlock a victory in today's game? These are the keys to the game. Presented by Honor Buick GMC Hummer in National City.
Key number 1, we certainly saw the impact that Manny Machado can have last night, as if we needed a reminder. So key number 1, Manny continuing to get back to being Manny. Last 7 games for Machado, he's hitting .407 with 2 home runs, a double, and 7 RBIs. If you go back to his last 34 games, going back to mid-May, Machado's batting .320. Now, he only has 11 total extra base hits in that span, but it seems like the slug is maybe starting to come around a little bit more now. And again, last 34 games, he has hit .320. So he's hitting for a better average, and he's starting to look a little bit more like the Manny we know. Can he continue that here today against another left-hander in DJ Herz? That's key number 1. Key number 2, simply runners in scoring position. Padres have done a really good job in that department in this series so far. 9 for 15 with RISP so far in the first 2 games of this series. If the Padres can continue to execute in those spots, that would certainly be a very, very nice part of today's game. That's key number 2. And key number 3, can the Padres make it 2 straight quality offensive performances against the lefty starter? Before last night's game, left-handed starting pitchers were having a simply incredible run against the Padres. A span of 23 games going back to late April, where the Padres faced the left-handed pitcher in those 23 games. 139 total innings against the Padres by those lefties, 27 earned runs given up. That's a 1.75 ERA in those 23 games. No opposing left-handed starter in that span had allowed more than 3 runs against the Padres. In fact, 17 of the 23 starts resulted in the Padres scoring no runs or just 1 run against that left-handed starter. That was before last night. The Padres finally did some real damage against the lefty starter last night. They scored 5 runs in 5 innings against Mackenzie Gore. Can they do something like that here today against, yet again, another lefty starter, albeit a guy they've never seen before in DJ Hers? That is a major key in today's game, and that's a look at our keys to this series finale between the Padres and the Nationals. When we come back, we'll hear from today's starting pitcher, Dylan Cease. Plus, I tell you what to watch for today in that Padres bullpen. Maybe an interesting day for the pen. Much more to come as we walk you up towards first pitch coming up at 1:10 on the Padres Radio Network. Our EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show continues here on the Padres Radio Network. Sam Levitt with you inside the loft here at the Western Metal Building at Petco Park as we get ready for first pitch coming up at 1:10 here in downtown San Diego. We'll hear from today's starting pitcher, Dylan Cease, in just a moment. First, let's tell you what to watch for in today's game.
What's the one thing Sam Levitt will be keeping his eye on in today's game? This is What to Watch For. Presented by Genesis Home Improvements, San Diego's trusted painting, roofing, and window company. Save 15% today on a new beginning for your home. Visit GenesisHomeImprovementsSD.com.
What to watch for in today's game. The Padres may have to go a different route with the back end of their bullpen here today, and here's why. Robert Suarez and Jeremiah Estrada have each pitched on back-to-back days. Again, we don't know this for sure, but they could be unavailable today. Daniel De Los Santos pitched on Monday. Remember, he gave up the 3 runs in the 10th inning in Monday's game before the Padres completed the comeback, and Wandy Peralta also pitched yesterday. Adrian Morhone should be available, but again, the two guys at the back end of the bullpen that you usually see in a tight game, Suarez and Estrada, have both pitched in back-to-back games. So keep an eye on that here today. That's what to watch for in today's game. How do the Padres potentially navigate the back end of their bullpen? Let's stay on pitching. Right-hander Dylan Cease on the mound for the Padres here today, coming off a so-so outing against the Brewers over the weekend. 4 2/3 innings, 4 earned runs given up, 6 hits allowed, and we'll dive a little bit deeper into Cease's numbers as of late during our pitching preview coming up. I caught up with Dylan Cease last week after his start. Here was some of what Cease had to say.
Yeah, I would have liked to have gone a little deeper and been more efficient, but for the most part, the swing and miss stuff was there. I could strikeouts, like you said. So, and honestly, the biggest thing is we won it, so that makes me feel a lot better about it.
The two words you mentioned last night after the game, pitches being sharp and then also command, and you talked about really kind of marrying those two concepts is when a guy is at his best. Yeah. Could you dive a little bit deeper into that philosophy, what exactly that means, the mix of sharpness and command?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me it's kind of like you get your mechanics and your body in the right position, and you get this process to where you're naturally bringing that out every pitch. And then from there, you just fine-tune it and get more consistency, get more feel with the reps. So it's, but obviously, it's if you can have your sharpest pitches, your nastiest pitches with your best command is when you're going to have your most elite games.
Last night, you also talked about pulling the positives out of a start like last night's. I'm curious, over the course of 162 games, the ups and downs, start by start, how important is that part of being a starting pitcher, being able to pull out positives regardless of what the final line may be?
Yeah, it's very important, and I tend to be someone where, I'll have starts where I really felt like there weren't positives, but at the end of the day on those, it's always like you can always learn from all of the negatives and be like, well, this process didn't generate good stuff or good command, so it's like, all right, let's find our new thing to focus on. But I'd like to think I'm just kind of trying to be realistic with it. If I had a nasty slider, it's like, yeah, the slider was sharp, maybe the results weren't as good as I like, but I generated what I wanted to at that. So it can be challenging to be positive sometimes, but I'm liking where I'm heading.
And it's no secret that slider's a great pitch of yours and a really important pitch to you. Where do you feel like that slider is right now?
I like where it's at. I need to be more consistent, but I really feel like I've done good work with it, and I'm getting into a good spot.
That was today's starting pitcher, Dylan Cease. After his last start against the Milwaukee Brewers, Dylan and I had that conversation the day after. Some good insight there from Dylan Cease. We'll talk more about Cease in just a moment. Do want to read a DM I just got on Instagram? As always, you can find me on Twitter or Instagram at SammyLev, SammyLev, on either of those platforms, and we always encourage you to chime in. Let me know what is your key to today's game. Got a message here from Jared, and Jared's saying, the key to the game, keep the passion. And I like that one because the Padres have played a very high-energy, passionate brand of baseball, especially the last couple of days. We'll see if they can keep that passion here today and find a way to sweep this series from the Washington Nationals. Let's dive into our pitching matchup between left-hander DJ Herz and right-hander Dylan Cease.
Let's take a look at who's on the bump today with our starting pitching preview. Presented by Chimney Sweeps, Inc., San Diego's trusted chimney and fireplace service company for 40 years. Call Chimney Sweeps, Inc. at 1-800-CHIMNEY or book an inspection online at chimneysweepsinc.com.
Left-hander DJ Herz on the mound for the Nationals. The 23-year-old rookie was traded from the Cubs to the Nats last summer in exchange for Jeimer Candelario going to Chicago. Here in 2024, early part of his major league career, 1-1, a 4.50 ERA in 4 starts, 18 innings, 26 Ks, 5 walks. Last start against the Rockies, 3 2/3 innings, 3 earned runs given up. He gave up 7 hits and gave up 3 home runs. But don't be fooled. This is a young left-hander that's got good stuff. The start before that one against the Rockies, it came against the Marlins. He went 6 scoreless innings with 13 strikeouts, gave up just 1 hit. So he is a guy who can strike people out when he's going right. The arsenal for Hers, 4-seam fastball, a changeup. Those 2 pitches are really his bread and butter. Also will mix in a cutter and a slider. On the mound for the Padres, the 28-year-old right-hander Dylan Cease. So far this season, 6-6, 4.14 ERA, 16 starts, 91+ innings. He struck out 116, walked 28, given up 11 home runs so far this season. He struck out 10 while giving up 4 runs in 4 2/3 innings and a no decision on Friday against the Brewers. Padres did win that game 9-5. Cease's ERA was at 2.19 through his first 8 starts of the season, his first 8 starts as a Padre, but he has a 6.43 ERA in his last 8 starts. He's also given up 9 of his 11 home runs this season in that span. But what Cease continues to do is strike people out. Only Tyler Glasnow, Garrett Crochet, and Cole Reagans have more strikeouts than the 116 for Dylan Cease this season. And that's a look at our full starting pitching matchup here today between Dylan Cease and DJ Hers. And I should mention Cease, of course, the 4-seam fastball, the slider, the knuckle curve, the sweeper, the cutter, and the changeup. That is the pitch mix for right-hander Dylan Cease. As always, you've been listening to the EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show on the Padres Radio Network. EcoWater SoCal, your water should be perfect. Find them online at EcoWaterSoCal.com. Padres come in with a record of 43-41. Padres have won 6 of 7. They are trying to make this a really great homestand here today. If they win here today, it would be a 6-1 homestand. And after all the drama of last night, what's in store here today on a gorgeous Wednesday afternoon in America's finest city? We're going to find out. When we come back, Jesse Ackler, Tony Gwynn Jr., have the full starting lineups, first pitch, and all the play-by-play. I'll talk to you on our post-game show. You're listening to your home for San Diego Padres baseball, 97.3 The Fan, and the Padres Radio Network. Enjoy the game, everybody.
No matter what kind of dad